What's going on, MMA fans? I'm Ray Garvey Jr. Today is episode 1 of the MMA News. Today, before UFC 303, we're going to talk what's next for Michael Chandler. Are we going to see Conor and Jon Jones ever in the Octagon again? Alex Pereira becoming the company man, biggest we've seen since the likes of Donald Cerrone, and more. Right after our intro, stay right there.
Okay, hot topics to talk about. Everyone's wondering, are we going to see Jon Jones and Conor McGregor back in the Octagon? Ray, give us your take.
As soon as he pulls up the next image, I'm going to give you exactly what I think about these two juggernauts of the sport. The reason I chose this one right here, anybody who's approaching middle age, this is what we remember. 145-pound Conor McGregor fighting anybody, anywhere, anytime. Marcus Brimage, Diego Brandao, Dennis Seaver, Chad Mendes, Jose Aldo, getting choked out and the lights out by the likes of Nate Diaz. You know, he wasn't surprised, motherfuckers. But I tell you what, the same thing goes for Jon Jones, a guy who earned an unheralded title shot when his Winklejohn Jackson teammate out of New Mexico, Rashad Evans, wasn't able to compete. An unknown 205-pound skinny kid with two brothers in the NFL took the MMA World by storm. These two guys, if you're under the age of 26, I don't think you understand the dominance with which they ruled the MMA landscape. I'm going to start it out with Jon Jones. He's fought once in the last 4 calendar years. He's had trouble inside the Octagon and outside the Octagon. Suspected drug use, hit and run, little bit of jail time, domestic violence. He's a perfect example of a guy where his skills took him places that his character could not sustain him. Jon Jones, I am a fan of yours. You are without a doubt the greatest 205-pound combat athlete of all time. You are without an argument on the Mount Rushmore. And I tell you what, any argument for the greatest mixed martial artist of all time that doesn't include you, in my opinion, is incomplete. Do I think that Jon can get his stuff together, possibly make another run at, 2 or 3 title defenses at heavyweight? With his athletic ability, I'm going to say absolutely sure, but with his track record, I'm not certain that this is something the guy wants to do. Take a look at what he looks like now. The guy's sitting on millions of dollars driving supercars in New Mexico. Whatever life he chooses to live, he has certainly earned it. Jon, if we never see you in the Octagon again, thank you for all the contributions that you've made to the sport. Thank you for raising the bar and making the 205-pound division greater. The athleticism have improved. The dynamic striking has improved. I tell you what, if it wasn't for you, I don't think that 205 would be where it is. So Jon Jones, give it up. Bones for Bones!
Let's give it up for Bones! Let's give it up!
And I'm going to tackle the guy who possibly is the only other active fighter more famous than the likes of Jon Jones. A skinny kid from Ireland, humble and hungry. He said, "Show me the money, Dana White." This guy walked into the UFC, I want to say 2015, 2016. He had more fun. He was more active and he predicted his own destiny. He's brought more eyes to the sport than the likes of Ronda Rousey and Brock Lesnar combined. And guess what? He did it while hoisting UFC gold in 2 weight divisions, beating the likes of the underground king, Eddie Alvarez, when everybody said the chips were stacked against him. Conor, much like the person we just spoke about, Jon Jones, has been plagued with trouble. And it's easy for us in the cheap sheets to take pot shots, but I tell you what, if I'm sitting on $50 million of Bugatti, a whiskey deal, and I am the most famous guy in the world hanging out on super yachts and Speedos, Conor, at the 155 and 170-pound weight division, at 36 years of age, I'm going to go out on a limb and say your best years are behind you. I don't necessarily think that there is a path for him to get back into the title picture, but I certainly want to see him fight one more time. And even if it's not in the UFC, I do think we're going to see him in boxing. I do eventually think we're going to see him fight the likes of a Jake or a Logan Paul.
All right, so where does that leave Michael Chandler? Where does he go from here?
Michael Chandler knows a pain that only one person in the UFC understands, and that is Rafael dos Anjos. Back when Conor McGregor said, you and your wife tonight are going to party, she's going to break out the red panties, because when you fight me, you made it, baby. Break out the red panties. Michael Chandler's a guy who is probably the greatest mixed martial artist that Bellator has ever seen. Came over in his mid-30s to the UFC to see whether or not his skills would compete, and they did. He beat the likes of Dan Hooker. He put on one of the greatest fights that MMA fans have ever seen against the likes of the always game Justin Gaethje. And he's also shown to be a man of integrity and character, not just inside the Octagon, but outside. I tell you what, right now, there is nobody in the landscape. You take a look, if he's going to come out and fight Charles Oliveira, that is not going to be a needle mover, in the words of Dana White. This was the one fight that was going to set up Michael Chandler for the rest of his life, that was going to allow him and his family financial security. It was snatched out from underneath him. I certainly hope that it wasn't on behalf of any poor life decisions by Conor. But Mike, I tell you what, like the consummate professional you are, I've already heard you're going to be showing up to UFC at the Fan Expo. You're going to be signing autographs, being an ambassador for the sport. And I tell you what, I don't know at 30 years age what you have left to give to the sport as a combat athlete. But with the Hollywood good looks, the incredible way that you handle yourself on the mic, and the dignity with which you handle yourself outside the octagon, I know for a fact that mixed martial arts is always going to have a home for you. Thanks for what you give to the sport. The boys here at MMA News, incredibly sorry about, what happened to you here at UFC 303. I hope that Dana takes care of you, and I hope you get paid.
Let's go, Michael Chandler. Let's go. All right, speaking of pulling out, something Nick Cannon's never done before, Conor McGregor has pulled out, and Khamzat has health issues. What's going on with this guy, Ray?
Tell you what, it's funny. I'm having deja vu. First of all, shout out to Dana White, Ron DeSantis in the state of Florida. Because if anybody remembers, the disease which shall not be named because of YouTube's terms of service, there was nothing to be entertained by. And it was Dana White who was able to appeal to the likes of the state of Florida to have an empty arena in Jacksonville that could hold 40,000 people. And this unknown guy with a cleft lip and a beard out of Sweden just took the world by storm, became the most terrifying individual in the world. He fought every 2 months. He fought at 170. He fought at 185. But the one person who was able to derail his hype train was the disease that shall not be named. And once again, he was slated to fight the former UFC champion, Robert Whittaker. He finds himself with a mysterious illness. Dana White says he's violently ill. I hope that he makes a turnaround. I hope that he makes a speedy recovery. But it's going to be really sad to see if any of these medical issues are going to derail what could have been an absolutely dominant UFC career. Every time he loses a year, that's just something that's going to take away from his ability to cement his legacy as a UFC all-time great. And it's going to derail the ability for him to ever have the opportunity to fight for UFC gold.
Prayers for Khamzat. Prayers for Khamzat.
What was it he said about Allah the other day? One thing I will say is that he handled this with a level of acceptance that I think a lot of people wouldn't. Some people might feel that they were unjustifiably treated by the gods. He said, if this is Allah's plan for me, this is what I'm going to do. So I think he's in a good mind space. But I tell you what, the MMA landscape is more entertaining, and it's better when Khamzat's right in the thick of it. So get well soon, Khamzat. And I look forward to see whatever you bring us in the near future.
All right, so moving on. He pulled out from Bobby Knuckles. Bobby Knuckles has to fight a up-and-comer Ikram. What does that look like? Is that a lose-lose for Bobby Knuckles?
This is absolutely a lose-lose for Bobby Knuckles. I've done a little bit of research. The person who's fighting in Ikram, Alexpereira, if I mispronounce that, shoot me, roast me in the comments, do what you will. I'm the one who's up here. I'm going to take it on the chin the best way that I can. But this guy had a first-round submission victory in the Dana White Contender Series, 2 first-round knockouts, a relatively unknown. A win for Bobby Knuckles, Robert Whittaker, over the likes of Ikram, does nothing for his legacy, does nothing to move the needle, I'll mention it once again, in propelling him into a title shot. But Khamzat, in his post-disease which shall not be named reign, a victory over Khamzat would have absolutely catapulted Robert Whittaker, a former UFC champion, to have an opportunity to fight for UFC gold once more at 185 pounds. So, Robbie, I hope that you get past this guy. But, if you don't, I think that's going to set you back to the starting line. You're 33 years old. No matter what happens, you're another guy. The show is a big fan of Bobby Knuckles. Tough luck, and I hope this doesn't zap your motivation. I hope that you get in there. I hope that you get the job done, and I do hope that you can fight for UFC gold one more time.
Let's get a big win for Bobby Knuckles. Big win for Bobby Knuckles. All right. So Bobby Knuckles, if he wins, maybe he has a shot, but we just were announced that we have dricusduplessis fighting Izzy on August 17th in Perth. What do you see going down there, Mr. Ray?
Do you think I'll get canceled if I say that fight is going to be black on black crime?
Yeah, I think you would be canceled for black on black crime.
Then we're not going to say that here. Dricus duplessis is going to be taking on the likes of Israel Adesanya, 2-time UFC middleweight champion in Perth, Izzy's hometown. I tell you what right now, very seldom, if ever, does a UFC champion get dethroned and come back better. One of the only ones that I could think of in recent history is Israel Adesanya as he came back against Alex Pereira. He was disciplined, he fought at distance, and he was hungry, he was motivated. I think that the Izzy we're going to see against Dricus is going to be a more disciplined. He's going to be someone who walks in there. Izzy doesn't know how to lose even when he does. He's a competitor through and through. He's never turned down a fight. And I do think that he's going to give speed and angles the likes of which Dricus has never seen. Sean Strickland walked him down. Those were 2 guys playing Rock'em Sock'em Robots. I think this is a horrible matchup for Dricus. Unless Dricus can somehow manage to put him on his back, take him down, and smother him, I'm looking for Izzy to get in, get off, and get out. I hope that he makes light work of Dricus. And that's going to set us up for the rematch that everybody wants to see. That was the victory that no one expected when the likes of Sean Strickland took UFC gold away from Israel Adesanya.
So, yeah, going into Sean Strickland, Ray, he said that he's going to sit on the sideline and wait for who wins that fight, expecting a belt after that. Now, he did just fight Paulo Costa, so he has been active since his loss to Dricus duplessis. But is that fair to Bobby Knuckles? If Bobby Knuckles gets the win, should Sean Strickland and Bobby Knuckles fight each other, and then the winner of that fight the winner of DDP versus Izzy?
So my producer over there just said like fucking 77 words, but I'm going to attack it the best that I can, MMA fans. The first thing I'm going to say is I'm not absolutely convinced that DDP beat Sean Strickland. Much like Dana White, probably in agreement with my producer over here, my buddy Bill, I think Sean Strickland did enough. I say to be the champ, you got to beat the champ. I'm not saying Sean Strickland won, but I am going to say that DDP did not. Do I think that it's a good idea to sit and wait? We've seen so often in MMA that you have no idea what the landscape holds. You know, whether it be injury or, I'll throw this out there for size, imagine if DDP and Israel Adesanya go out there and put on a Chandler Gagey-esque performance. And Dana White has no other option but to say, we're going to run it back. So we're looking at 3 to 4 months out for the fight. Maybe they need 4 to 5 months to recover. And then there's 3 to 4 months out of that. All of a sudden, Sean Strickland at 33 years of age is going to look at being on the shelf for 14 months. And he's a fighter who seems to do better when he's active. But he's a company man. He's the most American guy on the planet that we've ever seen. He's like the love child of John Daly and Kid Rock. I think Sean knows what he's doing. I think that if anything does come up sideways, Sean's like, you know, he's an optimist. He's going to make the best of any situation that he possibly can. So I'm hoping that Israel Adesanya is going to make quick work of DDP and he has a relatively short turnaround. And I want to see Sean get that rematch to show everybody that it wasn't a fluke. Oh, and as far as Robert Whittaker goes, tell you what, Robert Whittaker over the likes of Ikram, like I said, that doesn't do enough to put him in that mix. So I do think that Robbie Whittaker is going to have one more fight to climb those ranks. And I think that Sean Strickland has done enough to earn the next sequential title shot.
All right, great. Next going up, Alex Pereira stepping in short notice for Jiri Prochazka. Second fight. They both fought recently. Is this an awesome move for him? Is this a smart move for him? And will he be able to fight again right after this, or should he take a break?
There's something about, especially the guys that are aging, like myself, and we remember MMA the way that it used to be, that anytime, any place, there's just something about that is appealing to the, you know, that primal sense that most fight fans have within them. Jiri Prochazka is an unorthodox fighter. You know, we saw him almost get destroyed by the likes of Glover Teixeira, and we also saw him decimate the ever-athletic Alexander Rakic. With his hands-low style, I don't think that and that lead leg forward, I don't think he's going to be I don't like the matchup for Jiri Prochazka against the likes of Alex Pereira. I think Alex Pereira is going to walk in there. I think that he's going to attack that lead leg. Jiri Prochazka is going to be walking on a borrowed kneecap for the first or second round. I think that Alex Pereira is going to make relatively short work, put another notch in the championship belt, thus cementing his legacy. You know, this guy didn't even make it to the UFC until his mid-30s, and he's 2 more title defenses away from being on that Mount Rushmore.
All right, so last and not least, this is a segment we say, that's not MMA. Jake Paul and Michael Perry stepping up. Mike Tyson dropped out. Mike Perry stepping up to fill those shoes to box Jake Paul. That's going to be on July 20th in Tampa Bay, Florida, not far from where Mike Perry lives. What do you see going there?
The first thing that I'm going to say right now is I'm incredibly saddened to not see Iron Mike Tyson put hands on the likes of the problem child, Jake Paul. Anybody that's old enough to have actually had the privilege to watch Mike Tyson fight in his prime, I don't care if you're Anderson Silva, George St. Pierre, you know, Anthony Rumble Johnson, rest in peace, one of my favorite fighters of all time. You look at the most intimidating people of, you know, in the history, in the halls of MMA greatness and boxing, even Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, Poison Jr. Jones, the list could go on ad infinitum. Mike Tyson was the most terrifying combat athlete that has ever existed. And I was incredibly sad. And if you told me that there was any way that I would shell out $29.95 to watch this sideshow, I would say that you're absolutely crazy. But guess what, Mike Perry? You just earned my $30, man. Jake Paul is about to fight the likes of a guy that does not understand the word fear. Mike Perry would fight for free outside of a nightclub waiting for his valet parking to show up because somebody cut him in line to buy a hot dog at 3 a.m. Mike Perry is a savage. He's a psycho of a man. He went over to bare knuckle fighting championships and fell in love with the most brutal version of our sport. I'm looking at him. I tell you what, do I think Jake Paul is a more technical boxer? Probably. Do I think he's going to be disciplined and maybe expose a couple of, shortcomings in Mike Perry's boxing game? Yeah, but guess what? The second that Jake Paul makes a misstep, you're going to see the savage in Mike Perry come out, and Mike Perry is going to absolutely separate Jake Paul from his consciousness, and I'm here for it. Shout out Mike Perry, man. Let's fucking go.
Let's go, Platinum!
Hey, everybody, I'm Ray. Once again, I want to thank you for tuning in to MMA News. I love the sport. I hope that you love the way that we presented it. And if you did, don't be afraid to hit the like button. Don't be afraid to subscribe so you can see anything that we put out in the future. Helps us in the algorithm, helps me get my voice heard, and helps us make the sport that we all love incredibly great. Until the next time, I'm Ray. I'm out. This is Billy. Say hi with your silly mullet.
Smash the like button. Smash it.